Right. All right, let's get into it. The subject of fear, and this is going to be a doozy. Even though it's a really important subject matter for what anyone's facing right now or what they're going to face, I'm going to keep this short because, like I said, we all got things to do, and fear is it's such an important subject matter, and it could affect us in so many different ways. This video could go on and on and on and all sorts of tangents. So I'm going to start out with a quote. This one will not be from scripture, from the Bible. This one will be from the movie Dune, which was a movie during the early 80s, I believe, and now it's like a cult classic. So for my atheist friends out there, you're probably going to enjoy this one. And it is a quote about fear itself. And it goes like this: "I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer." That's very true. "Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain." That is a great quote. And that should always be in the back of someone's mind who is going through some really rough events where they're just flooded with fear. Because you want to let that fear pass through you, not let it destroy you. And at the end of the day, you want to remain. So, got me a little itinerary right here. Fear is just absolutely destructive when you are faced with something that's harsh, or you're faced with something that you have to make a split-second decision on. And if you're not, if your mind is not conditioned for this and your body's not conditioned for this, you're, how they say, up the creek without a paddle. It's as simple as that. And what it does, and I think is the most important and kind of prophetic aspect of fear, is that when you're pumped full of it, when you're in this fearful / adrenalized state, you're in a much more suggestible state of mind. Think about that for a second. So you're in a suggestible state of mind, and your body's just pumped through with all this adrenaline, and you can't even make a simple decision because you're literally paralyzed. And it not only affects your mind and your decision making, but it will really affect your health, especially when you're flooded with fear for the long term. It will actually just start destroying your body. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some links down below if you wanted to study the physical effects of fear on your body, what happens in your brain, and how your mind will be open to suggestion when you have panic attacks and bouts of fear and things like that. I don't want to get into those details. That's why I figured I'd put them in articles, because it gets really deep and it gets really scientific in biological and all the other types of stuff. So I mentioned how fear can put you in a suggestible state of mind. And I said it's, I know prophetic is a very strong word, but it's kind of interesting. Think about what's going on right now in this year of 2020. And can you think of any events that would have fear being pumped out through the media, have fear being pumped out through others around you, have fear being just pushed everywhere through everyday life? Do you think it's going to, with all that fear going around, you think it's going to put you in a suggestible state of mind for possibly certain politicians to do certain things? I would think so. So this is definitely something you want to keep a pulse on. You want to keep aware of. Not to sound corny, but you want to fear fear itself, especially now. And you want to be aware of it, because they are going to use it as a weapon. They are going to definitely use it as a means of manipulation. Like I said, and like a lot of the articles, I'm not even saying this. So science is saying this. Your mind is in a very suggestible state of mind when you're pumped full of fear. So just keep that in the back of your head. One of the most important things to keep in the back of your head, as we are in this coincidental election year. I don't believe in coincidence, but anyhow, as we're in this election year, of this foul year of 2020, politicians are going to, like maestros, use fear to get you to sway this way and that. And I've said this once, I'll say this a bunch of times. I don't care if you're black, white, straight, gay, glow in the dark, or purple, or preaching for, or protesting for Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. It doesn't matter. You live your life the way you want to live it. I'm all for, being able to protest and to state what you have to state and state your opinion. But don't think for a second that any of these politicians give a hokey hell about anything that you put your hopes and dreams in. The only thing that they're there for is to use your fears, to use your hopes and stuff for a vote and a dollar. And that's all they care about. So if you think that you're going to be riding with Biden, I don't know who the hell thought of that campaign slogan. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. But anyhow, if you think that you're going to be riding with Biden and, all of a sudden everything's going to be great if you vote for this guy or you vote for that guy or whatever, it doesn't have to be Biden. But I'm saying if you put your hopes and dreams in these politicians, expect to be greatly disappointed when the election's over with and they've gotten your vote and they've gotten your dollar. It's as simple as that. Don't put your hopes in these politicians. If you are really fearful of something in life, if you believe that you have to get a point across or you want to make a change in society, it starts with the man in the mirror. Once again, I don't want to sound corny, but it really does. It starts with building yourself mentally, building yourself physically, and making very, very hard changes. It's simple and it's hard at the same time. It's simple in the practice that, hey, you can't depend on some Joe Schmo in Washington or in the Senate or whatever to make life decisions for you. You have to do it yourself. Now that's easy to say, but to actually go out and start making those changes and to start, practicing what you preach, it's very difficult. Change is difficult. Change creates fear within itself, and you have to overcome that. And it's not easy. But, I digress. Don't trust those politicians. They don't care about you. They don't care about your cause or anything like that. Only you will. And those that you care about around you. So, what effects has the vast majority of people been noticing about how fearful 2020 has made us? I mean, you've probably noticed it with all the ridiculous panic buying. And the reason why I want to talk about the panic buying, because, well, yeah, if a storm is coming or a hurricane is coming, there's going to be panic buying. But it's going to be for reasonable, rational things like food and water. We are so jacked up full of fear because of how much the media has pumped up the whole COVID event. You got people running around like, scared little lemmings, wanting to buy mountains and mountains of toilet paper. And you would actually see it on the news, the look on these people, the looks on the faces of people in the New York and New Jersey area, just absolutely petrified with mounds of toilet paper in their shopping carts. It's a prime example of how ridiculous and how dangerous a fear-infested mind can be. Running around like you're like a chicken with its head cut off with mountains of toilet paper. Where's the mountains of bottled water and food and all the really important stuff? No, we got to buy toilet paper. And it's not because people in the New York and New Jersey area are stupid. No, they're some of the smartest people around. People in New York and New Jersey are some of the most successful, some of the most accomplished people around. You would think that they would know to, logically get this, and that. But they're buying toilet paper. That's not an example of the people of New York and New Jersey. It's an example of what a fear-infested mind will do. And it's just wild to watch all this stuff. Absolutely wild. You also see people now, look, I'm all for practicing common sense. If there's a bad flu or a bad virus going around, keep your distance from people, wash your hands, try to eat correctly, take your vitamins, wear masks if you're in a very, very densely populated, enclosed area. But you see people out in the open, specifically these Karens. I hate to keep harping on them, but I'm seeing videos of people now that are getting pepper sprayed by these said individuals. And they're pepper spraying people who are just jogging outside without a mask. And now this person's jogging outside without a mask. You're in the open air. You're fine. You're not going to spread anything. And these people, I kid you not, these crazy Karens are going up and they're pepper spraying, saying things like, I hope your kids die because you're not wearing a mask. I kid you not. There was a video of some crazy lady, and I think it was a Target. And the kids weren't wearing a mask because I think the kids had, one of them was very, very young and would probably scare her. And the other one, I think, actually had breathing issues or something like that. And this lady in a double mask goes up to this poor couple because she's so pumped up full of fear and self-righteousness too. And she goes up to this poor couple and starts screaming at them, telling that, I hope your kids die. Really whacked out stuff. Fear will cause seemingly normal people to act completely nuts. I mean, violent nuts. You want to act, look, you want to be crazy, that's fine. But don't be screaming out violent things to people. That level of fear gets high enough, you'll see average people run around acting not only crazy, but violent, dangerous, crazy. And you have to be prepared to deal with those people too. That's I think a very concerning characteristic of what fear can do to the mind. It can make you act very hostile and very dangerous to those around you. It's one thing, if you're a danger to yourself, hey, that's on you. But you're gonna act dangerous and nasty and violent to other people around you. That's not cool. You got to be dealt with accordingly if you're gonna do that. That's not cool, especially to the little kids. Don't act mean to the little kids. I myself have had many moments of fear in my life that unfortunately derailed me from a lot of things that I could have accomplished. I think for the most part I've accomplished most of what I wanted to in life. I've also made a lot of bonehead mistakes in my life. And it was predominantly because of a fearful mindset. When I was in high school, I did a lot of things academically that I'm proud of, but I'm very ashamed of what I did athletically because I had athletic ability. I had a lot of athletic ability, but athletic ability doesn't mean anything if you can't even apply it. And my mind was so unconditioned and so fearful that I practically made an absolute fool of myself in wrestling and football. Not because the ability wasn't there, not because I wasn't fast or strong enough. I had plenty of speed and strength. But because my mind was so fearful of what people would think, and also I'd never done things. When I was young, I was a sheltered only child. I didn't really do a lot of wrestling or anything like that. I always did my own thing. So when I went into a team-based sport, I was so flooded with fear that I would just crap out on the mat. Not literally crap out on the mat. I'm using a metaphor. I would just fish out. And in football, I didn't even know my ass from my elbows. I didn't even know where to go because I wouldn't even bother listening because I was just it was just, an overwhelming experience for me, being in that team environment. I played football with my friends before, but being like this big team environment, it was just, a shock. And that's a huge regret that I have. Fear will also cause regret. That's a huge regret that I have, that I let that fear overtake me. I didn't address it, and I didn't try to overcome it, so I would actually put forth a 100% effort. And there's no greater pain than the pain of regret. Trust me on this one. And when you get older in life, when you get into more advanced things like your career, like family, like marriage, like kids, you don't want to be living with the pain and regret that, you let your spouse down, or you let your family down, or you let your coworkers down, or anything like that. So if you don't address that fearful state of mind that you have, if you don't want to address those issues or hang-ups that you have with fear, because you're afraid of what people think, you're afraid of getting up in front of an audience and doing a presentation, you're going to have very painful moments of regret. And I implore you to address that influx of fear in your life, or else you're going to have a lot of regrets that you're gonna look back on, and it's gonna cause a lot of pain. You don't want to go through that. So how do we work through fear? That's a damn good question. They and ourselves, and when I mean they, I mean the controllers, and ourselves give ourselves an influx of fear. So you're going to get a lot of fear, and you're going to get a lot of influence from the outside sources like the media, which I can't stand the media. Alphabet Soup News, ABC, CBS, Fox News, whatever the hell it is, MSNBC, it doesn't matter. They're all in bed together. So you get all these outside influences, and then all of a sudden you start manifesting internal conflicts within yourself, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And for some people, it gets to a fever pitch where they got to go on significantly strong medications to do simple things like get outside of the house and be able to go to work. It gets that bad. They can't even get out of bed and function. So what do we do about all this fear? First, I highly recommend physical activity. Believe it or not, something as simple as going outside and walking can kind of dissipate that excess fear that you have. And also for things, let's just say, like hurricanes or economic collapse or another biohazard lockdown, preparation is key. My father works for the EPA, and he says that even when facing really scary situations like Katrina and 9/11, the outcome of that, and having to clean up and do chemical analysis around all those catastrophic areas, him and his team won't be pumped full of fear because they've done drills and preparation non-stop, year after year. I mean, day after day. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you continuously drill in your mind and prepare and educate yourself on things that you will possibly face, well, then you won't be overtaken. You're always going to have a little element of fear. If you have no fear, that's bad. That means you're going to go out and do something, macho and stupid. But if you drill enough, you educate yourself enough, you train enough, you prepare enough, then you're not going to be in a moment where you're like, oh shit. And we've all had those oh shit moments. Back to what I was saying about when I was in high school and how poorly I performed in team sports. What I should have done is I should have just practiced more. I should have just a baptism by fire. The more you practice, the more you put yourself in a situation where the limelight is on you, or you're going one-on-one, or you're like, for instance, like sparring. That's why sparring's so important. Because when it actually gets down to crunch time, well, you've already sparred hours and hours and hours and hours on end. It's going to be a little bit more tense when they ring that bell, but you've already gotten hit, 100 times over. You've already gotten taken down 100 times over. Or you have already done the takedown 100 times over. So when you actually get into that scenario where you have to perform, it's not going to be nearly as bad. A lot of people are afraid of public speaking. I think everybody, at least once, whether it be in school or at your job, has had to speak in public and give presentations to an audience. I've seen people literally clam up. Some people will get on stage and they'll throw up or they'll piss themselves. It happens. But if you drill over and over and over again, I mean, if you start at as simple as talking in front of a mirror, and then you gradually do things like talking in front of maybe like 3-4 people, and then gradually, more and more get into bigger and bigger crowds, you'll find yourself getting less and less fearful. You'll be able to think clearer. You'll be able to give a better presentation. And your speeches won't be filled with things like, a lot of people do that. They fill blank times with, even myself, I do that every now and then. But anyhow, I guess in closing, one of the things I like to pick on a lot, of course, is social media and our dopey phone apps. Those within themselves, that can contribute, especially nowadays, to a lot of anxieties, a lot of social fears, phobias, anxieties, because everybody, especially people in their mid-20s, will be younger than me, they're constantly on these social media apps and little texting apps and whatnot, that we have so much removed that face-to-face interpersonal interaction that when you now have to step out that door and personally interact with people, whether it be through business or relationships or even family, we've become just a bunch of social anxiety basket cases. And I'm not knocking people who really have real deal social anxiety. It's a very upsetting thing, but the amount of people who are going through these symptoms, that are going through these disorders, has exploded. And social media and these frickin' smartphones are a big part of it. Because once again, you could just reach out with a text message to people. You could just reach out, by posting stuff on, social media, the gram, Instagram. Everybody's saying how they're Instagram famous. You ain't nothing. Okay, really. As soon as they shut down your source of income that's coming to your account, and now you have to walk out the door and use your whatever skills you acquired, how are you going to function? So my suggestion, I highly suggest you turn your phone off for like a day or two. Like during the weekend when you don't have to have the phone on for work. If you have to have the phone on for work, I understand. But for those of you who are medical workers or whatever, sometimes you have to have your phone on during weekends. That's understandable. But if you don't have to have your phone on, then don't. Turn it off. Stop depending so much and living your life through an Instagram or a Facebook or a messaging app, text messages and all that stuff. That's going to send your anxiety and depression through the roof, and those two kind of play off each other. So you don't want to take out that real deal, real life interaction. A lot of anxiety and stress and fear is fear of life itself. Just living life itself. And it's an unfortunate thing. But with that said, I'm definitely rooting for everyone out there. And I hope we could all have a Halloween. That'd be really nice. I hope they don't lock that down. I want to enjoy Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas with everyone. And I don't want to have to present my my vaccination papers to do so. So with that said, don't let that fear obliterate you. Study, prepare, meditate if you have to. Go outside, take a walk. Turn off the damn phone when you can, and don't be dominated by fear, because it doesn't get better unless you confront it. Don't let it take you over, and never stop. Don't ever give up, and you'll be okay.